Divorce rate is currently on the rise, and statistics have it that many marriages, in fact, about 50% of marriages today, end in divorce. This is really heartbreaking. And there's so many reasons for this. Top ones on the list are things like, lack of commitment, infidelity, irreconcilable differences, conflicts, finances, just to mention a few. And it is very important that while you're still single, you talk about these very important topics and see whether your beloved husband or wife to be is on the same page with you. In fact, one woman who I used to admire so much, God rest her soul, the late Bimbo Odukoya, she would say that courtship is a period of interview, not a period of intercourse. So ask the right questions, right? Interview questions. That being said, welcome to Purpose Driven Marriage Podcast, where we model kingdom marriage and help you align with God's purpose for your marriage. Yeah, so we have a very interesting topic today. 7 important topics to discuss before you get married. And like you can obviously see, I'm alone today. My husband is unavoidably absent, but he sends his regards. So we're going to be going straight into today's topic, right? And welcome. Thank you to those who have joined me today. I can see my dear sister Ife. I can see Sister Ohio. Thank you so much for joining. So I'm going to be talking about the 7 things that you need to discuss, topics that you need to discuss before you say I do. Right. And top on the list, number 1 is talk about your expectations. Yes, it is very important to talk about your expectations for this marriage. Is it fantasy or, you're really, really wanting to commit for life. I always say that you want to know the mindset of your partner. Do they have a covenant mindset about marriage, or do they have a contract mindset? Ask them these questions. What do you think about marriage? What is marriage to you? And many people will have different ideas, different opinions about marriage, maybe based on the opinion or the image they formed of marriage is based on what they have seen their parents do, or those who are close to them do. That's their own idea of marriage. Or marriage is a place where you just suffer, and some people say because of that, I'm not going to get married, or and then when they find themselves in marriage, they come in with this really a strong mind, like I cannot take this in marriage. So you need to know what kind of mindset do they have. Also, what do they see marriage as? Something that lasts forever, or do they see marriage as after, if I can't take this, I'm going to get out of the marriage. What does divorce mean to them? How do they see divorce? Is divorce something that they just do when things don't go their way? Is that when they say, I'm going to divorce you, I'm going to end the marriage? What is divorce to them? You want to understand, are there deal breakers in marriage for you? Like if you are already married to me, for example, what will make you leave this marriage? What are your deal breakers? You want to ask them those questions. Apart from that, in terms of expectations too, what do you think that the roles of a husband is, or the responsibility of a husband is? What are the roles of husbands in marriage? The roles of wives in marriage? What some people think that the wife is the one that is meant to cook, clean, do everything that and the husband does not lift a finger, and they would they will let you know that is what their mindset, or that is what their understanding of the roles and responsibilities of husbands and wives are. And you want to know that for example, I remember when I was dating my husband then, and I wanted to know whether his mindset was that of women stay at home, but they become housewives, because I know he had seen his mom then, be a wonderful woman, a housewife, and I thought, maybe he may have the picture also for his wife. So I had to ask this question because I knew where I was going in terms of my career. So as a woman, you need to ask this question. You need to know what they think, about the role of a woman, the role of a wife. Some guys are just looking for slaves, a woman that would do their dishes, do their laundry, clean their house, or arrange their house for them. That's the reason why they are getting married. So you want to know if you're not that kind of person, and you see yourself beyond just doing chores. You want to ask that question. As a man too, you want to know, what is this woman's expectation of me as a husband or as a father to be? how does she want me to lead her? You want to ask this question so that when you're in marriage, because there are lots of unreasonable expectations that people have when they get married, and because they have not communicated these expectations, they get into trouble, and marriage is not what they have assumed it, or it doesn't end up as what they've expected or imagined or assumed that is going to be. So you want to know this kind of things, who is going to be, does he or she, like, for example, as a woman, does the man want you to be cooking fresh food for him every single day? Yes, there are some men that, that expect fresh food. And if you're a career woman and you do all of those things without a helper, it's going to be very, very challenging for you. So you want to ask these questions. You also want to ask the person, how do they communicate when we have conflict? For example, how do we communicate that, our differences, when we have disagreements? Because the reality about marriage is there's going to be conflicts. And why is that? Two of you are different. The way you reason as a woman, the way he reasons as a man, your backgrounds are different, your experiences have been different, your educational background also, everything is different. And so sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's likely that you're going to see things from different angles, different perspectives, have different mindsets about some things. And so you want to ask this question so that you are clear about what their expectation is when you have conflicts, when things are not going your way or his way or her way, whichever the case is. You want to be able to ask yourself, okay, so how are we going to be resolving our conflicts? For example, some people will say, what, it's important that we don't go to bed when we have conflicts. We resolve our conflicts, like we must not go to bed without resolving our conflict. We must resolve it before bed. That's the way some couples resolve their conflict. So you want to ask those questions. How do we resolve hurts also when I'm pained? How do I communicate that to you? Because some women, they're going to be upset and they will brood over it. They'll be doing stubborn head and all these things, and hi, I'm fine. Like, because they have not communicated their hurts and pains and just assume that the man should know. He can see how I'm feeling, and sometimes the man does not know how you're feeling. He cannot read your mind. You've got to find out, how can I communicate or express how I'm feeling? He disappointed me and I'm not happy about this. How do I express that to him so that he understands and we do not, have more and more conflicts and more misunderstanding? So, have that conversation. Both of you know what to expect. Still talking about expectations, you want to find out, when we get married, are you open to third parties living with us in our marriage? Not visiting, but living with us. For example, you could be someone who has an aged parent, and when you get married, maybe your parent has been living with you as a single woman or as a single man, and by the time you now get married, you want to also bring that parent, your mom or your dad, along with you into your home, with your spouse. You want to find out, what do they think about that? Not everybody is comfortable with having their parents-in-law, or their parents, in fact, because not everybody has a good relationship with their parents, live with them. So what do they think about that? Are they open to it or are they opposed to it? You want to know, because it's, bringing third parties, whether parents or siblings or other people live with you, can be very, very challenging. It could even cause division in your home if you are not careful, because one person begins to take sides with their son or their parent or their daughter or their parent, or their family member, and you now become the lone ranger in that family if there is no peace, if there is no unity, if there is no friendship. So you want to be able to talk about those things before you get married. And if the case is, I'm not open to third parties, I'm only happy for them to come and visit us, not for them to live with us, there should be an expiry date. Then you want to know, I remember recently my husband and I were talking about how he grew up with having many people living in their house, that there was almost no time that he recollects that it was just his family, like the 4 of them or the 5 of them living alone without any other person with them. I was like, wow. that is serious. So someone like you might be open to having people living in their house, whereas for me, I never had that experience. It was just us, the five of us living at home. Sorry, there's six of them, so he had four children and a parent. I had two other siblings and my parents were five. The only time that we had an extra person was our house help, and that was just for a few years when I was still very little. So I do not have that exposure where we have people who are not family living with us. For me, I found it very different. So you want to talk about those differences and the expectations when you eventually get into marriage. So that's very important. Also, you want to talk about premarital counseling. What do they think about this? Some people do not think that it is of any value to them, before marriage. What are they going to teach us? We can just watch it on YouTube. Why are you wasting money? All of these kind of things. No. Talk about these things, because when you don't talk about it, it could lead to problem. See, if a person doesn't have the mindset of growth, of change, of learning, that's already a red flag. Because people who go through premarital counseling, it's an opportunity for you having a third person who is neutral to be able to speak to you guys, educate you guys, enlighten both of you. So having the mindset that we do not need premarital counseling is not a good mindset. If you have time and money and all of this to devote into your wedding that would only last a few minutes or a few hours, but you do not have time to invest into your marriage that is supposed to last a lifetime, then it tells us how wise you really are. So, and what the kind of person that you're going to get yourself involved with if you have a different mindset. So talk about these things. What about postmarital counseling? Because the reality is there will be challenges even in the marriage. You cannot avoid that. There will be times where you don't feel that you even love this person anymore. There will times where the butterflies, the mushy feelings, butterflies will die down, and then you face reality. That's marriage for you. That there is a season, there are ups, there are downs, and that's just how life is generally, and marriage is not excluded. So there will be times where you have those things. How do you want to approach it? What do you think about post-marital counseling, where both of you go for counseling together as a married couple to get help, to get advice, to get some understanding about how you can navigate your challenges. So talk about these things, very important. And one thing that was added to this list of expectations is their views. They are like political views. As much as this might sound, how does that even affect us? It does. There are some parts of the world where people have really strong political views. For example, in the US, where you have the Democrats and the Republicans, and some people are like, can I marry a Democrat or a Republican? Like, because the people or the party that you support also has a lot to do with your values. It tells a lot about the kind of values that you have. It speaks volumes about those kind of values. So you want to find out, what are your political views? Are they very are you strongly opinionated? And if our views are different, can we work together? The Bible says two cannot work together except they be agreed. So that's Amos 3:3. It's very important that you talk about this. The other thing I put here is military. Like also again in the US, there are people. Military is something that is very, very common. People in the military. And I remember that there was this intended couple who the woman was in the military. No, she wasn't in the military. She was previously in the military, but not anymore. And she spent like more than half of her years in the military. And then she met this guy who was strongly against the military and everything that had to do with the military. So I mean, every time that they had conversations that led to that area of her life, or that of her life, they bumped heads all the time. It was really a deep heated conversation, and she was like, for her, if she eventually gets married and has children, she wants to be able to tell her children about her history, and majority of her history has to do with her military experience, and she wants them to know about it. In fact, she would like to encourage any of her children to go into the military if they're interested in, but that was like against it. Like, the guy she was with was very opposed to that. that idea. So you want to talk about this, else it's going to cause a big rift in marriage. So these are just some expectations that it's important that you talk about. You have discussions about this. Don't just be in a relationship and both of you are just talking about superficial stuff. How are you? How was your day? Did you eat well? Did you eat today? What did you eat? How was your night? How was work today? Those things are good, but go deeper, because it's those deep things that would end up, or that could make or mar your marriage. And so you want to be prepared before you get into marriage. So I'll quickly move on to number 2. Number 2 is talk about children. Very important. And you wonder why this is important to talk about. Because number 1, not everybody wants to have children. Did that shock you? Yes, that's the truth. Not everybody wants to have children. And so it's important that you have this conversation with your partner. Do you want to have children? And some people already have children, by the way. So you want to ask also, do you have children? How many children do you have? How did you have them? Do you have baby mamas, or do you have or baby fathers? Or did you get married before, and you divorced, or did you marry and you lost your spouse? So you want to ask these questions. I remember watching a TV show some time ago where this guy got married to this lady who did not want to have children, but apparently they had not talked about it at all. Can you imagine? And they were married already for some years, maybe 2 years or so. And this woman had actually gone to tie her tubes before marriage because she didn't want children, and they started having issues in their marriage for something unrelated. And while they were in front of the marriage counselor, they began to have this conversation that led to the fact that she had tied her tubes, and the guy's jaw dropped. Like, literally his jaw dropped. And like, what? You mean you had your tubes tied all this while? And I've been trying and getting frustrated that we need to have children. And she was like, children? I don't want to have children. I'm like, what? Yeah, it was so heartbreaking for the guy. But the reality is that she said, oh, but you did not ask me. I'm like, are you waiting to be asked? So please talk about it. Talk about it. Very important, so that you don't enter one chance. Do they want to have children? If they want to have children, how many children do they want to have? You might want to have a football team, whereas the person just wants to have one. So you want to see, can we reach a compromise, right? Maybe we have 2, maybe we have 3. Why do they? How can we work together? Pretty much. When it comes to the number of children that we want to have. Still talking about children, you want to talk about, are you particular about any gender? Some people are, I want boys, so I want only boy children, that's what I want. So, or other people, maybe it's girl children I want. Is this idea just like a flimsy idea, like a fantasy in their mind, or is it something that is really strong? For example, a guy might say he wants a male child, and it's important for him because he's the only son of his father, and he wants someone that can continue their name, and he is serious about this. So and what if you get married and God doesn't bless you with male children, God blesses you with female children instead? You ask him, so what's going to happen to us? Are you going to marry a second wife? That's going to give you male children. You want to know ahead of time. I forgot to mention, talking about the expectations of marriage. So you want to figure out, just going back to the first point very quickly, their mindset about marriage too. Is it like a monogamous mindset or a polygamous mindset? Some people are open to marrying more than one wife. You want to have that, you want to understand their mindset, so you know what you're getting yourself into. So back to this point, you want to sort of have these conversations about, do they have any gender preferences when it comes to children? And what happens also if you're not able to get pregnant? Both of you one, for whatever reason. It could be that the man is the one that is infertile. It could also be that the woman is the one that is infertile. What do we do at that stage? You need to talk about it, because life happens, and that's the truth. Life happens. God may just be, allowing you guys to wait for some years. Then what happens? Do we then just go at separate ways at that time because children are important to you? Do you again get a second wife, or you look for another husband? Who can impregnate you, or what are your thoughts to assisted modes of conception, assisted conception, what do you think about that? Well, what are your thoughts about that? Do you think, what do you think about IVF, in vitro fertilization? What do you think about surrogacy? You want to ask this question. Someone like, no, I cannot. Oh, God forbid, if God doesn't give me my own children, then I'm not going to have children. Whereas you as a woman might be someone who children mean a lot to you, and you really want to have children, irrespective of the means. You are open to having children, whether they come biologically from you, or whether even adoption. Some people, what are your thoughts about adoption? You want to ask those questions, because if the guy is not, or the woman is not open to adoption, then, and you don't have children, that doesn't mean that we are going to be childless for the rest of our lives. Is that going to be it? So you know exactly what you are getting yourself into. Also, parenting styles. When we have our children, how are we going to raise them up? How are we going to discipline them? How are we going to do things in oneness, for them and with them, so that we do not have clash. Again, you need to agree. You need to agree when it comes to these things. I would like to quickly move forward. So that's number 2, talking about children. The third topic that it's important that I think it's important for you to talk about is sex. Yes, you need to talk about this. Even as a believer, as a child of God, this is one thing that is causing a lot of problem in Christian homes, in Christian marriages. So please talk about it. They talking about it is not talking about it so that you can fall into sin. No, it's also it's about having some idea about what the person's expectations are when it comes to sex. What are your sexual expectations? Some people have been previously exposed to sex, so they know what to expect, they know what they're expecting. Some people have not been exposed at all, and they are very naive. You want to know how naive they are. It just gives you, some people also they have sort of like perverse ideas about sex, so you want to know all of these things. Do you think that it's only for conception? So some people would only come together sexually because they want to have children, and then when they don't have children, there's no point having sex, because that's what they think or believe for some reason that sex is for. So you want to know what you're getting yourself into, so that you're not shocked after marriage or after the wedding day. So what are their mindsets about sex? Do they think that is a dirty thing? A lot of times in Christendom, we tend to sort of paint sex bad. I don't have sex for my don't, and then people get this mindset that it's a bad thing, such that even when they are now into marriage, they still keep thinking it's a bad thing. But it's not a bad thing. In fact, it was beautifully created by God for your enjoyment, for your pleasure. So you want to know what they think about it. Do they think it's a dirty thing? Do they think it's an unholy thing? You want to know. You want to also know, this person I'm with, do they think that sex is worth waiting for till marriage? Or they think, what's the point of waiting? Let's just enjoy ourselves. Why do you need to wait? God understands. If we don't test each other, how will we get to know we are compatible? What's their mindset about sex, about honoring God with our bodies, about the marriage bed being undefiled? What do they think about all of these things? And are you both on the same page? Are you both compatible to work together? I mean, that's the whole idea of all of these things that I'm sharing today. That's the whole idea, because when you get those answers that are not in line with your values or what you believe, what you uphold, dear to you, your core values, then that's already a red flag. Because if you believe something else that is completely different from, or like very in sharp contrast to what your partner believes, that's going to cause problem. Don't sweep it under the carpet and be like, what, when we get married, he would change, or she would change, or she will have a different mindset. It's a lie, because that thing that is already causing problem in your courtship, is going to be the bone of contention also in your marriage. So you want to be very careful. You also want to know, in terms of, okay, when we get married, what do you think? You think that sex is something that one should be having every day, or twice a day, or once a week, or once a month, or once a year? You want to know what you're getting yourself into too. There's nothing wrong in having these conversations, and you want to, like, where is it coming from? When you're having this conversation, it's not something that you're gonna have, when both of you are locked up inside a room, you just set yourself up. Get out and have those conversations. Not something you should discuss indoors. That would be my encouragement for you. And their ideas about sex, you'd be surprised. Some people call themselves Christians and they have a different sexual orientation. You want to know what are your thoughts about a threesome, for example. What are your thoughts about all of these other things? What are your thoughts about things that happen in our world today? Use of sex toys, BDSM, oral sex, anal sex. You want to know the kind of person that you're getting married to. Forget about don't assume that he's a pastor or she's a pastor, she's an evangelist, she's a choir leader. They will never ever think about those things. They are holy. Forget those things. See, people are their real selves, outside of what when they are indoors with you, and outside of what they paint to other people outside. So you want to really get down to what are their core beliefs, their true beliefs about these things, because you'll be shocked. There was a story of a woman who, she eventually got married to this a husband who was supposedly a Christian, but the man was sexually attracted to other men. So he was bisexual, and she never knew until she got married to him. So you want to observe, you want to ask questions, and it's okay to be direct because you want to know. And sometimes if you do not ask, you don't know, you will never know. So ask these questions. Also, how you want to communicate, how you communicate things, when you are, in terms of sexual conversations. For example, if things are not going well for you, how do you want to communicate that to your spouse? How would they want to communicate that to you? You talk about these things also before you get married. Very important. Number 4 is finances. Thank you to everyone who's been watching so far. Number 4 is finances, and this one can be a big, when I say big, I mean big bone of contention. Finances. Talk about finances, please. And when we talk about finances, what am I talking about? You want to ask them, what does money mean to you? What does money mean to you? If you're yet to like this video, please like it, share it, let other people know, about these things, because some people don't know, like, they are genuinely ignorant, they are genuinely naive. So share it to WhatsApp, to what for people in your WhatsApp group, share it on Facebook, share it on social media. Let's spread this news. Let people be more informed, and indirectly you are helping to bring down the rate of divorce. So going back to finances. Finance is very key. You're coming into marriage with, so a lot of times, two of you having different mindsets about money. You want to ask them, what does money mean to you? For example, if a guy has come from a wealthy home where right from when he was a child, parents would take him on to travel on a plane, business class, like that's the least. Business class, we don't do economy. We're like, that's how he's grown up. And for him, going by business class, and going and touring the world, not a big deal. That's something regular. He now meets this babe who has not seen, maybe she's not really seen an aeroplane before, she's not been into an aeroplane before, and now that he's married to her, or the way she sees money is so different. She's come from a very humble home, or stricken with poverty, and just being on, going by business class, like, you are wasting money. How can you spend a whole $5,000 just because when there is economy that is like what, $300, you spend $5,000 on, mindsets very different, and the guy is like, what's the matter? Like, it's not a big deal. It's that's normal. That's normal. She's like, no, you cannot do it though. And she thinks that he's squandering money, and he thinks like, that's how life is supposed to be. Like, what are you talking about? And that's just one example, but it can show itself in different ways where this person thinks this is how money should be spent, or how money should be used, and the other person thinks this is how money should be used. And if you don't talk about it, you just end up having unnecessary fights. about money. So how do they see money in terms of money language? One of these days we'll talk about money language properly. Also, do they have debts? How much do they have as debt? Some single people are in serious, they're swimming in debt from, they've gone on holidays by credit card, student loan debt, and all manners of debt, car debt. You want to know how much do you have in debt, and what are the expectations when we get married? Will your debt become my debt? So you want to know all of these things and how they are paying it. What is their payment plan like? Ask these questions. Do they have assets also? You want to know, it's important for you to know if you're coming into the relationship with them, what kind of assets they have. Are we talking about properties or shares and stocks, or whatever the assets are? You want to know. You also want to disclose yours to them, also very important if you're going to be one with them. We want to talk about how would our finances be managed. How are we going to handle our finances? Will you be doing your own account, my own account, or are we going to have joint accounts? What do you think about joint account? So you want to ask those questions. I think for us, when we got married, we were thinking joint accounts. We already talked about having joint accounts, and by the time we got married, we had to tweak it up a bit, because our things changed at the beginning of our marriage. I think we've talked about those things in previous episodes. So talk about your finances. How would you manage the account, joint or no joint account? You also want to ask questions about what is priority to you when it comes to finances. And you want to hear what they have to say, for example, and the answers will actually give you an idea into, are they really an investment kind of person or a liability kind of person? Do they even have investments? For example, if you ask a question like, if you were given $20,000, what would you use it for? You want to ask that kind of question. What would you use $20,000 for? It gives you an idea. It gives you insight into what is priority to them. For example, you could say, would you buy a house? You make it like a deposit for a house, or would you buy a car? Instead, more like cash down payment. For a brand new car. What would you use the 20 grand for? And I mean, there is no bad answer. That's the truth. But it gives you an insight into how they think, how they reason, what they see money as, how they would spend money, great money if it comes into their hand. So some might say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna invest in a property, or invest in a business, or I'll do a property. I'll buy property instead because it's going to yield me money." I also say, no, there's no point in buying property. I've been looking for a car. I need a car. A car will be able to take me around. I mean, what's the point of buying a house when I will still be walking with my legs or entering public transport and things like that? Whereas, somebody else will say, rather than buying just a car for my use, I'm going to spend that 20 grand. I'll get a loan for 2 cars that I'm going to use as taxi that will be able to bring me money back, where I'll end up paying the loan for the taxis maybe in 1 year, and then I'll have more income being generated, and then I'll be able to buy a house eventually. So it gives you an idea into how they think, how they reason, when it comes to money. And someone else will say, I'm going to go and buy a Gucci, Gucci bag, Gucci this, how do they see money? You want to know. Leaving that, we can talk about also, what do you think about tithes and offerings? Do you pay your tithe? Do you pay tithe? Do you believe in paying tithe? Because this can be an issue. Do you believe in paying offerings or giving to God? What about savings? How much do you have in your savings? Some people have negative. There's no savings. Some people don't even believe in savings. They'll be like, just enjoy life as it comes. And if you are someone who likes to save, and then you get married to somebody who does not believe in savings, then you are in for a really tight time in marriage, especially if they have a rigid mindset, a mindset where they do not want to change how they think. It's very important that you ask this question. So you can quickly walk away. Can I just say at this point that because you're courting someone, it doesn't mean that you must marry them. I'll say that again. Because you are courting someone, it does not mean that it must end in marriage. No, it does not have to end in marriage, because that's the whole idea of courtship, to be able to see whether both of you can work together, to be able to see whether your differences you can still are still sort of malleable. You can still you are working towards marriage, hoping that you can begin to shed some unnecessary weight in terms of some behaviors. You can begin to learn new behaviors. That's what you do during courtship. you know um so if things are not going right while you're courting this person, you're already seeing red flags. We are not agreeing. We're always fighting because of these differences that we have. That could be a red flag for you to be like, you know what? I don't think if we get married, we're going to succeed in this marriage. Let's take a step back, or let's just say goodbye. It was nice meeting you, and then that's it. So you need to ask these questions. The fifth topic I believe that's better for us to talk about is your future. Yes. When we talk about future, I have things like career, your purpose, your location, the church you'll be attending. Please talk about it. If you want to be a career man or a career woman, you want to set the tone of where you see yourself in 5, 10, 20 years from now. Can they picture themselves in that future that you set for yourself? Even you as a woman, you as a man, can you picture yourself in their own future? For example, I wanted to become a career woman, and I told my husband, I want to practice medicine. I want to do this. I want to do that, in my future. And he was like, babe, I'm in this with you together. We are in this together. In fact, he said, study anatomy, biochemistry. Oh, my university courses with me, and he said, I'll be there for you. I'll be with you and all of those things. And also for me, I was there for him. It's important that you know whether or not this person can support you or will support you in the future. We recently had a case of a lady who she was doing a master's when she met this guy, and she had a dream finish masters and go for her PhD, and she had told the guy, I want to do my PhD and things like that. And it was like, what do you want to use PhD for? You don't need PhD. He just said it like he just pushed it aside, but she had said that she wanted to do a PhD. And now that they are married, she's wanting to do a PhD, and it's like, no, cannot do PhD in my house. So what do you want to do? Use PhD for? Go and look for a job and things like that. So right now she's in the middle of struggling, annoyed with her husband that he's not letting her move forward. In terms of her career, he's sort of putting her down in terms of her career goals, going for PhD. So if he or she is not excited, is not willing to support your career dream, please don't bother unless you want to sacrifice your career on the altar of marriage. There needs to be an alignment. Will they support your purpose? Where do you see yourself, your ministry? If they're already showing signs that they are not interested in what you're interested in, that's a red flag. You're someone who wants to do great things in the future. You want to have your own charity, your own organization. You want to do this. You want to go places. Please, if they're not interested and you're like, okay, you just be on your own. By the time you get married to them, they would not be bothered. So that's something that you want to look out for. Don't just be in love and enjoying a butterflies in my tummy, let's just travel, let's do this, let's do that, and you're not asking the right questions, because life will test your marriage. No matter how long the butterflies last for, life will actually test your marriage. And if it's not built on a firm foundation, on the solid values, then you might be in for trouble. Right. You also want to ask about location. So when we get married, where are we going to be based? For example, as a guy, you may just be in a place for some time, but your vision is that you relocate out of the country. Say you are in Nigeria now, and you meet this babe, both of you are in Nigeria together, but you know that within the next 2 to 3 years, your plan is to actually relocate. You want to get out of the country. Maybe you want to go to the US or Canada, or wherever you want to go to. Does this person have the same dream as yourself? You want to ask. For example, as a woman, I've had marriages where the man, his life is already based in Nigeria. His life he has built his life around Nigeria, and he does not want to leave Nigeria. Like, why am I living in Nigeria? Whereas the woman has seen herself outside of the country. She's aiming to live in Nigeria, to working abroad, to doing different things, going further her studies, you know. And now they are married, they have children together, and she's still like, I want to get out. Guess what? She got out, and now they're living apart, even though they are still married. So you want to ask this question, are you planning to relocate? Would you be open to relocation? If you're going to be open to relocation, where are you wanting to go to? Some people have made up their minds. I'm not going to go to the US, no matter what, for whatever reason. Maybe they don't feel that US is safe enough, or they are gun issue and things like that. But you want to know, so ask these questions. Are you open to relocation? Where would you like to settle down eventually in the future? You want to ask so that you know what you are getting yourself into, and the relocation doesn't cause a rift in your marriage. You want to also talk about which church are you going to be attending. Sometimes you get into marriage where both of you are from different denominations, and don't just assume that the man might want to assume that, okay, now that we are married, you're going to be coming to my church. And the lady is like, no, why will I be coming to your church? You should come to my church. You want to talk about these things. These are real life issues. I was once I met this couple where the lady was her father was a pastor, and she's grown up, she's serving in her father's church, very committed and very strong. And the guy, he's also very committed, very strong, but in different denomination, right? And he assumed that, when we get married, you're going to be coming to my church. And the girl is like, no, I cannot leave my parents. This is all I've known all my life. You are going to join our church, And the girl's parents are like, no, yes, you're going to join our daughters. Our daughter, you're going to come to our church. So that already caused a challenge in their marriage. In their relationship before they had to decide what's going to happen. Also the other issues. I had also another issue where there was this guy in a different denomination, also this lady in a denomination where if you want to get married, you have to marry from that denomination. You must not marry outside, and if they marry outside, that man has to come from that, he has to start coming to the denomination. And it was just a bit of a mess, to be honest. So ask these questions, okay? Don't just assume that they will be coming to your church when you get married. Which church? Or are you going to be going to a new church? If both of you cannot agree, okay, I don't want to go to your church, I don't want to go to her church, will you go to a new church? If you're a new church, which church? Ask these questions. Very important. All right. Because I think because doctrinal compatibility is also very key. And number 6, because I'm running out of time, I love talking about this kind of things. Number 6 is medical and mental health history. This one you must ask. You must ask questions. Earlier I talked about how someone went to go and tie her tubes because she didn't want to get married. That's a medical history. You want to ask those questions. I remember Pastor Mildred Okonkwo was talking about how before she got married, she had a diagnosis of PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And for many people with that medical condition, they cannot give birth, or they struggle with conception. And she had to tell her husband, if you marry me, we will not be able to have children. But the man was like, Pastor K was like, no matter what, we'll have children, don't worry. But at least she communicated her medical condition, and today, to the glory of God, they have children together. So have that conversation. What are the medical problems that you have? See, if you have a medical condition and you're scared that if you tell your partner, they may leave you alone, your fear is genuine, your fear is legit. But if they leave you alone, let me tell you something, it means that they were not really meant for you. Because the person that's meant for you would have the grace, the capability to be able to carry your cross with you. So if they leave, then let them leave. Don't be manipulative where you deny them that information, and you don't let them know, this is what I am actually going through, this is what is wrong with me. I think that is diabolical. That is wickedness. Let them know, and then they can make an informed decision whether they want to walk that journey with you or not. Don't tie people into, don't cunningly lead people on into marriage when you know that you have this condition that could cause problems in your marriage. For example, you could have a seizure disorder, you could have so many problems. If you're asthmatic, they could know how to support you too. True love would go all the way. For someone who is asthmatic, you want to make sure that you have your inhaler with you always, and they would be the ones reminding you, are you with your inhaler? You could have an extra inhaler, because they know that, God forbid, if there's any asthmatic attack, they know what to do, they know how to help you, because they are already informed. So you need to ask them, tell them, these things and ask questions also, things about gynecological problems. You need to know, some people, they look like men but they are women underneath. Some people, they look like women but their sexual organs are actually men. So the male type or the male part, you want to know these things. Yes, for real, let me tell you something. For real, there was a guy who asked a question, who had this problem. He ended up marrying this lady, and they didn't talk about these things while they were dating. And I shock you, I kid you not, when they got married, he eventually found out that she was actually a man down there. Yeah, she had this legit problem, with her sexual organs, but they never talked about it, and she never actually disclosed this thing. So that was really horrible, and it was not okay for her to hide. So that's already a big problem in marriage. Talk about these things and what are the medical problems that you have. Heart disease, for a guy to, maybe you have premature ejaculation. Some people might know because of previous experiences, sexual experiences. Do you have HIV? Do you have hepatitis? Talk about these things because they can directly influence or affect your spouse negatively. So you don't want to get married and then you're going to infect her or him with hepatitis B or with HIV. That's wickedness. Talk about these things. Do they have alopecia? This alopecia, when people lose their hair, their hair. I had this lady who, she has problems with alopecia. She had alopecia, and like her head was actually bowed, like completely bowed. So she will wear wigs all the time to protect, and you would never know that she had this condition because she always appeared on flick, with her wig, everything on point. But take off the wig, there's like bowed head, and then she was going to get married to this guy, and she had to be vulnerable with him, like, I don't have hair on my head. I don't have any hair on my head. Are you able to accept me like that? And she took off her wig and like, hey, like, this is the person I'm getting married to. Of course you'll be shocked, but it's something that you need to talk about before you get into marriage. Yeah, so I hope you're getting blessed to talk about these things. Mental health history. Oh gosh, I cannot. In fact, if you leave me here, I'll spend the whole day talking about mental health because that's my area. See, I've met people who have mental health problems, and during the courtship or dating period, everything is fine. You can't tell, they are on medications and they're fine, but they end up getting married, and few weeks into the marriage, probably because of the stress of wedding and all those things, they break down, and it is bad, like very, very bad. I've seen a woman like that before, and the guy or the husband is like, I never knew, like, this is shocking to him, see his wife turn into someone who is completely opposite. She had bipolar disorder. She became very high, very, very agitated, very angry, aggressive, talking nonsense, and it was like, wow, what is this? And looking after her, it was clear that she never disclosed this problem that she had to this guy, and that's very unfair. So he didn't know what to do, he didn't know how to help her. She had stopped taking her medications and things like that. So when you know this thing, it's not to scare you, but it's to know how best to support you. For example, if that guy knew that she had this problem, you could have been checking in with her regularly. Okay, babe, have you taken your medications? Have you run out of your medications? When is your next appointment? All of these things. But if he or she is not aware, how do they know how to support you? Or you are scared that if I tell him or her, then they're going to leave. If they want to leave, then let them leave. Don't tie them down, because you want to get married to them. Because at the end of the day, you end up in divorce. So what's the point of forcing marriage? Like, you just put yourself in more problem. You have to start dealing with the trouble, the turmoil, the pain that comes with divorce. It's not worth it. Marriage is not your life. It's just an aspect of life. You can enjoy life without actually trying to kill yourself over, I must get married, So be very honest. In their family, you don't have a mental problem in their family. You want to know, because if they do have a mental history, chances are maybe your spouse might have that problem also in the future. It has not just developed yet, or maybe it could be that your children might be the ones becoming autistic or having ADHD or all of those things. You want to know, so ask questions. Do your parents have any mental history? Do they suffer from schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or depression or anxiety or all of these mental problems? You want to know, maybe a cousin somewhere, Ask questions. I cannot overemphasize this, because if you don't ask, you do not get. Right. Also, I think the last thing I want to talk about here is trauma. Trauma is very important. It's an important topic that, in the African context, we overlook. We do not think that it's important. But guess what? When people go through trauma, it changes their life forever. It changes the way they see life, their perception, their understanding of even you, their partner, for instance. So you want to ask questions, and how they have dealt with the trauma they've experienced in their lives. For example, some people could have gone through really horrible childhood experiences like rape, and you cannot just imagine that they're going to be fine. That assault, sexual assault, can have negative impact even on your own marriage. So how they present themselves to you, whether they're interested in sex or not, it can negatively impact the marriage. So you want to know these things. You want to know the losses they've experienced in their lives. Have they, what was growing up for them? Did they lose their parents or their siblings, or people who are there to them? Were they brought up in foster homes, for example, where there was no parents, were their parents drug addicts? You want to ask these questions, because the reality is that you want to know the kind of person, the man or the woman, that you are actually getting married to. It helps you to understand them. It helps you to know how to, support them, how to help them, how to relate with them. When they say some things or behave some way, where this is coming from. So it just helps, and it helps you to, not be negative, especially if you're a good person, not to be negative towards them. So these are things that it's important for you to talk about before you get married. What's their understanding or their idea, or what do they think about therapy? Have they been to therapy before? How was it for them? Do they think that it's worth it? Do they think that, if things happen in our future, are you open to going to therapy to address these things? It's very important that you talk about all these things. And yeah, that's the end of today's topic. I hope that you have learned a lot from today. There's a lot to talk about when you are in courtship, and so you cannot say that we don't have anything to talk about, don't stop talking superficial stuff, talk about deep stuff. Yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to provide you with topics, things to help your relationship, to take your relationship to the next level, and ultimately have a beautiful and wonderful and fulfilling marriage with your spouse. So I'm going to bring this to a close and draw a curtain to this. Thank you, God bless you too. I see you all. Thank you, Sister Ohio, Sister Ife, Sister Jacinta. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you, and I hope that you have learned a lot from today's episode. If you end up watching the replay at some point, please leave us a comment. Also, we would love to hear from you. I see someone also, Ice Princess. God bless you too. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate you. Really value you all, and God bless you. Have a blessed day. Bye for now.